Quick trigger warning for emotional and physical abuse, gaslighting, mentions of mental illness, suicidality, and negative self-talk. So I made this video a while ago, and for that reason, my voice in the video is very different because I have been on testosterone for 6 months now, and so my voice has dropped considerably, which is very cool. I wanted to say that the reason I didn't post it after, writing it, recording, drawing all the art for it, and, editing it, was because I was scared. I was scared that maybe my situation wasn't that bad and that airing out all my personal shit online would have been bad, or that people wouldn't understand the connection I made between gaslighting and pain denial. But what changed my fear, or what made me not afraid anymore, was that I found a subreddit called r/raised by a narcissist. And it really, really put in perspective how common my experience was. And it really made me want to post this because I guess I just want everyone who goes through this to know that they're not alone. They're definitely not as alone as they think they are. The reason I'm not going to re-record the whole thing was because, one, like the acoustics I have here are significantly worse than the ones I had when I made this video. And it was scary to make the first time, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it again. So, yeah, you get pre-tea or 2 weeks on tea Lance. So, I'll give the floor to him.
I want to preface this video by saying that I'm just a random 17-year-old on the internet. These are all anecdotal things from my experience, and I am in no way recommending you use this as anything to diagnose or examine clinically with. I do want to explain why I made it, though, and that will kind of explain the theme nicely. So I made this for two main reasons. The first is that I think these things like mental illness, abuse, and abusers, are all slippery, if that makes sense. I sometimes call it quantum abuse, or Schrodinger's feelings. Growing up, the domestic abuse and violence in my house was an open secret. We all knew it was happening, but we weren't allowed to talk about it or acknowledge it. This made it slippery. We couldn't defend against it because, like how electrons are in quantum theory, it was a particle and a wave and a million other things until we were able to pin it down and examine it. And we weren't allowed to do that. So as a defense mechanism, I learned to overshare in order to combat that. Here, I'm trying to strike a fine line between oversharing and secret-keeping, though, and I think this is healthy, I hope at least. The second reason is that I don't see a lot of people talking about this intersection, and on the off chance that someone stumbles across this video and relates to it, it will have been worth it. A big part of what helped me cope with my mental illness and trauma was solidarity and listening to the stories of others, and relating. So I'll start this with how being gaslit into thinking abuse was normal intersected with my mental illness and exacerbated it. Growing up, I have very vivid memories of feeling awful because of the abuse. I've been told by several therapists that the oppressive atmosphere I grew up with is not normal, but it was to me. I remember my father telling me that love was supposed to be this way, that it had to be a struggle, and that the physical and mental assault of my mother was a symptom of passion and not abuse. So growing up, I had the natural instinct of this being wrong, mixed with the thought that it was normal, which had been drilled into me. What that does to you is it makes you believe that every time you feel pain, it's normal. And the problem isn't the pain itself, but you exaggerating it. So when depression first crept up on me, I didn't acknowledge it. I believed that in doing so, I was admitting weakness. I felt like it must be normal. It's normal to think about killing yourself at least 5 times a day. It's normal to miss school because you can't stop crying and everything feels so hopeless. It's normal to be unable to get out of bed, to go all day without eating because you can't get the motivation to make food. It's normal to almost pass out from hypoglycemia when you're finally able to muster up the ability to eat. All the other kids can deal with this. Why can't you handle it? What makes you so special that this has to be a problem for you? You can understand what this does to a mind of a depressed person. I know people with depression who weren't abused, and they have similar thought patterns. It's led me to the conclusion that a lot of mood disorders are abusers in their own right. They leech the life out of you, make you question your own reality, seek to control every aspect of your life, all while you're supposed to believe that this is normal. You don't need help because nothing's wrong. It's your fault that you can't handle it. When my therapist first told me I had major depression, I didn't believe her. When my mom took me to get psych meds, I felt like a faker. I felt like I didn't deserve them, like I was taking valuable resources from the real mentally ill people. When I first took the medication and it didn't work, I felt like it was confirming my worst fears, that this was normal and I really didn't need help. But we switched medications, added a few, and eventually I found my blend. And I felt better. I began being able to go out with friends. When you're so depressed for so long, seemingly normal things become novelties. I still marvel every time I can write things like this. Look at me go. I'm making something. I still struggle when I'm in pain, though. And I still struggle to be aware of when I'm downplaying my own struggles. I had this epiphany with my therapist more recently. The conversation went something along these lines. I was talking about how looking at hotel signs made me nervous. Like, even driving past them just made my stomach sink. And I said, I don't think I have PTSD. I just have triggers and flashbacks and a base amount of anxiety. And my therapist, bless his heart, said, so what you're telling me is that you have all the symptoms of PTSD, but you don't have PTSD. And at that moment, it just kind of clicked. All that fear I'd been feeling about labeling myself, about being open with these things. I never wanted to say I had PTSD because my mom had PTSD, and she went through much more in her lifetime than I ever will. But you can have the same mental illness as someone, and it be less severe, but still be valid. I might talk about how the denial of feelings led me to repress my gender dysphoria for years, or how it led me to deny that I was ever bullied. But I'll save those topics for later videos that I hopefully get around to making. For now, I'll leave you with this. Abuse, no matter if it comes from a single person, a community, a society, or even yourself, has through lines. The denial of reality, the denial of feelings, the denial of self, all of this in an attempt to control. Combating abuse can take different tactics in different situations, but a good way I've found to do it is through speaking out. Whether it's through therapy, protests, campaigning for change, or even just writing down your feelings in a notes app and maybe or maybe not making a video about it. It helps combat the slippery nature of abusers. Remember Schrodinger's feelings. And maybe, just maybe, someone will see it, and it will help them put words to their own complicated feelings.